Let's get to the big three.
Number 3.
Let's work with Denmark. The groups that benefit most from this break with NATO is Vladimir Putin. If we want to go against Russia, let's put some more assets in supporting the Ukrainians.
That is Senator Mark Warner. Greenland's future on the forefront of President Trump's mind, and Europe's convenes with our commander-in-chief as he heads over to Davos. They are very upset. Does he want to do a deal, or does he just want Greenland or bust?
Number 2.
We're here to worship Jesus. Yes. That's why we're here. Yeah. Okay, that's why we're here. Okay. That's what we're about.
Don't you think Jesus would be understanding
we're about
and love these folks?
We're about spreading the love of Jesus.
Really? Don Lemon? He's going to tell us what Jesus would do? Raiding a church, taking over a Target shopping center? Are these examples of peaceful protests? That's the question all anti-ICE activists have to ask themselves as DHS announced 10,000 illegal immigrant criminals have been taken off the Minneapolis streets, 3,000 over the last 6 weeks as clashes continue.
Number 1.
Tomorrow is the first year, think of it, 1 year. I don't think there's been a term like it. I don't think any president has had a better first year than we've had. But I inherited a mess, and now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world.
President of the United States selling his first year in the second term. Here we go. What has Trump accomplished? And what do you hope he has left to do, and hope he accomplishes this year? So we'll look at that. What has he accomplished? A lot. I mean, at the very least, if you're sitting at home, I don't like Donald Trump. You can't say he doesn't do a lot. You can't say he doesn't do multiple things at once. Whether you like the executive orders, whether you like the passage of the big, beautiful bill, you like the action with Venezuela, take a look at it. 8 straight months of zero catch and releases at the border. He sealed the border. Nobody thought that was possible. 1.9 million illegal immigrants took the deal, either left on their own or took the $10,000 to relocate and come back the right way. Love it. About 600,000 tossed out of the country, being captured and scooped up by Border Patrol or ICE or the combination of both. Reciprocal tariff garners $297 billion into our coffers. Now, I believe our deficit's going to be like $650 billion, which is a lot, but it was at $1.4 trillion. So it's coming down, and right now that tariff money goes against the deficit. DOGE cuts around $215 billion. That's pretty significant. Gas falls to its lowest level in 4 years and going down. Operation Midnight Hammer was awesome, blowing up the Iranian nuclear program, obliterating it. For now, they still have the technology, but man, what a mission that was. And the best military recruitment in 15 years. Then you have Operation Resolute extracts Maduro from his bed along with his wife and puts him in a Brooklyn jail. And now he got a chance of kicking Russia and China right out of that country. So year one, pretty good. President said this January 8th about what he thinks what he thinks his biggest accomplishment was. Cut to.
Closed. You can't come in. Nobody comes. Nobody even tries. And the people in Texas, Arizona, all these places that are won by such big numbers, they are so happy with the border. They had homes that they weren't even able to live in their home. Every day people were knocking on their door, every hour. And it's just a great honor to be involved with it. The ICE and Border Patrol and all of the people have been so good. Tom Homan, Kristi Noem. The people have done such an incredible job. You have no idea.
So they asked in a poll, how are things better now than when Trump took office? So for themselves and their family, in 2024, they said things have 40% approve of the way things were in this country for them and their family. In 2025, they were up 5 points to 45%. 2023, the number was 39%. In 2019, with President Trump prior to the pandemic, it was at 47%. So this question was asked by Fox News pollsters. Voters who say 2025 was a good year for the country. 35% say now, right now, they say 35%. In 2024, they thought that was only 28% thought it was a good year. 2023, 24%. 22 is 23%. 21, 19%. And in 2020, only 13% of the country thought things were good for them. So look, in this environment, Republicans and Democrats are not going to get over 50%, maybe 53%. because we're just too polarized. There's some people, Republicans will never compliment a Democratic president, and there's or when a Democratic president's in control, and some Republican Democrats will never say anything positive if a Republican's in control. Having said, that's why I think that if you have 45% approval rating, that's a lot better than I would have said during the Bush or Clinton years. So the president's approval rating right now is 44%. And I want to know what you would give him. 1-866-408-7669. Crime and safety, 47% approve. When it comes to immigration, 45% approve. Why? Because I think some people think it's controversial to go into these cities and have to pull people out. 42% say they like his foreign policy, which blows me away. It's by far the best foreign policy ever. Greenland's a little rocky, I get it, but he's bolstered NATO, Venezuela, Iran. You see what happens with the Gaza peace plan, the reinvigoration possibly of the Abraham Accords. Come on. How could you not be giving him 55% approval on foreign policy? 39% approval on the economy. That's got to come up. Government spending, tariffs at 38% approval rating. So what are you looking for him to do in the second term? Well, first and foremost, the big story now is Greenland. Why? Because the president says he's taking it. And most Republicans don't even want him to take it by force. Most people don't want to spend the $900 billion, including me, to buy it. To me, there's a deal to be done here. And the deal is really simple. We go in for the rare earth extraction as well as refinery. We take 2/3 of all of it for us, 1/3 for them because we're the only ones who can do it, meaning Denmark and Greenland. And then we agree with NATO to build 5 more bases on Greenland and begin to install the Golden Dome and maybe get some buy-in from NATO on that. To me, that's an overall win, I think. So that's personally. Here's Peggy Noonan on the first year, cut 6.
Some things are the same. What Donald Trump believed in 2016 is more or less what he believes in now. That's kind of consistent. His themes are his themes. I think he is more confident. I think he has grown hardened, and I think those around him have grown hardened. I also think the first term he really tested boundaries. I think in the second term, he's not in the mood to see boundaries. So. And he continues to love chaos. He does very well in it. That suggests to me there will be more chaos.
So I happen to know somebody who spoke to the president yesterday and said that, he's coming around to some type of deal on Greenland. But then he found out this information. Now, stay with me on this. Shockingly, our brilliant NATO ally, this is sarcasm, the United Kingdom is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of a vital U.S. military base in Mauritius, and to do it for no reason whatsoever. There's no doubt that China and Russia have noticed this act of weakness. By the way, they are allies with China and Russia. These are international powers who only recognize strength, which is why the United States of America, under my leadership, is now, after only 1 year, respected like never before. The UK giving away... the UK, I have to expand it. The UK giving away extremely important land is an act of, in caps, great stupidity, and is another in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Denmark and its allies have to do the right thing. Thank you for your attention. So the Speaker of the House gave a historic speech in the House of Commons a few hours ago over in England, at which time they cited about how far we've come in our relationships and our 250th birthday, but they had to deal with a lot of upset allies who want to go to bat for Denmark, not for us. As the president said 500 years ago, somebody lands there in a ship and says it's theirs. That doesn't hold up today. I'm going to take a time out and come back for Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. I want to talk about Minneapolis with him, also our options in Iran, and so much more. You're listening to the Brian Kilmeade Show. Don't move.
There is a certain degree of racism there, and there's a certain degree of entitlement. I think people who are, in the religious groups like that, it's not the type of Christianity that I practice, but I think that they're entitled, and that entitlement comes from a supremacy, a white supremacy.
So that is Don Lemon walks into a church and decides they're white supremacist. Are you nuts? Minneapolis, mostly white city. By the way, most of the protesters outside are white. Look at them. Just take a look. And are they white supremacists going out there to go against ICE? Why does this guy have to bring race into everything? Race has nothing to do with it. Because you're in a Protestant church practicing white supremacy, what an idiot. And I've always thought he was an idiot. Now I'm convinced of it, and there's no coming back. Lieutenant Colonel Alan West joins me now, Dallas County Republican Party Chair, American Constitutional Rights Union Executive Director. Colonel, your thoughts about storming the church because you don't like ICE, and evidently you didn't like a pastor, but who, by the way, wasn't there at the time.
Well, it's good to be with you, Brian. First and foremost, for Don Lemon, I would say he needs to read Proverbs 17:28, and I paraphrase: "It's better for a fool to keep his mouth shut than to open his mouth and confirm the fact." Look, I don't understand how the left believes that they can just walk into a church and violate the First Amendment, the freedom of religion, and the free exercise thereof, and start shouting down pastors and ministers. This is really getting out of control, and I think that what the left is doing is they're showing that this whole derangement syndrome thing, this delusion, it is for real. And in this year, that's supposedly a huge midterm election year, all they're doing is creating commercial advertisements to be run against them come September and October to remind people of how out of control they are and why we should not allow them. Think about the words that Ilhan Omar said to describe the United States of America at this Democratic hearing they had up in Minneapolis. These are not the people we want to have in leadership positions in our legislative branch.
What did she say, Colonel? I missed that.
She said the United GD States.
Really? She's a nonstop complainer. She's a she hates the country that basically saved her life, that she may have lied her way into. So, and now she became a congressman representing one of the most corrupt areas of one of the most corrupt cities in America, where billions are missing. And by the way, the restaurant that she had her victory party in was the restaurant that was making up false claims that Feeding America was actually building them mansions, Porsches, and maybe financing terror. But listen to how this sounded in church, cut 11.
Yeah.
You are a fake Christian. Why are you not standing with your Somali and Latino communities? Why do I not see you out at Whipple every day protesting this attack on humanity? Living real comfortable while the people starve. Living real comfortable while children are dragged into concentration camps.
What do I say to that?
Yeah.
What do you say to this?
Well, what you say to that is, first of all, this is a person that is unhinged. The next thing you say to that is, again, I'm going to go back to the Bible. When the Pharisees came up to Jesus and they asked him about, paying taxes, and he said, whose image is on the coin? He said, you render unto Caesar what is Caesar. Look, the government is supposed to protect our borders and boundaries and our sovereignty. These people that they are obviously out there protesting about are in this country illegally. That's a federal offense. I think it's Title 18, United States Code 1325. Why are you going in churches and shouting down, wanting to protect people that are here illegally? And then on top of that, people that are here illegally committing crimes, thou shalt not kill. I think that's one of the 10 Commandments. And some of the other things, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. They're out there assaulting people and burglaries and things of this nature. So the left is really finding themselves completely on the wrong side of this issue, and they did not get the memo from November 2024.
So this is amazing too, but I wonder, because 51% of the country in a survey by, I think it was CNN or CBS, said that they think ICE is being too tough. But were they too tough when they took 10,000 criminals off the illegal immigrant criminals off the street and 3,000 in the last 6 months? And they have the bios. If you don't believe the numbers, look at the bios. And these aren't all Hispanic. This is from Laos and Thailand. This is everywhere. They go to Minneapolis because you can run wild. But yet the mayor says this is about love. A neighbor going to shop for another neighbor because they're afraid to go shopping because they'll be scooped up and brought into prison. Why would they get scooped up, Colonel West? Maybe because they're here illegally?
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing. Let's start off. Why is ICE out there in Minneapolis? Because unconstitutionally and unlawfully, they have declared themselves a sanctuary city for people that have broken the law and people that continue to, have offenses in breaking the law. So those people are not allowed. They're not entitled, to use their word. They're not entitled to be here in the United States of America wrongfully. And then on top of that, when you look and see, the people that are out there obstructing their operations, that's also against the law. So you just see a series of ICE trying to go out and do and rectify a situation of lawlessness, but these people are rioting in the streets because they want lawlessness. They want criminals. These are not just our neighbors. This is not just the Maryland man. These are people that are here committing crimes.
No doubt about it. And the Attorney General, who's really a corrupt individual, Keith Ellison, cut 15.
Yeah. Here's what frustrates me. Over 3,000 ICE agents escalating into our state, a threatened 1,500 active duty military soldiers. That's what frustrates me. This situation is 100% because of Operation Metro Surge. This escalation, unjustified, irrational, inconstitutional, is why this is happening. I urge all people to obey the law, to try to do everything they can to not be provoked. But the reality, he's trying to provoke us.
They're in the face of ICE agents. They're trying to disturb where they sleep, prevent them from going to the bathroom, stopping them from going down their blocks. And they think that these people are doing it peacefully and admirably. Are you crazy? They're getting paid. People are financing this. They're formatting the whole thing in New York. They're getting ready to do the same thing in New York shortly.
Yeah. Now, this is the Attorney General of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I served in Congress with him. He's supposed to be the top law enforcement officer in the state of Minnesota. But yet there's a letter that Keith Ellison has sent out to sheriffs in the state of Minnesota that are cooperating and working with ICE, and he's threatening them. So why is it that the Attorney General is threatening law enforcement, constitutionally duly elected law enforcement officers, sheriffs, to not do what is right by abiding by the law? And furthermore, ICE would not be there in Minneapolis if the Minneapolis police, when they picked up these individuals, they kept them in the jails and they turned them over to ICE there.
Thanks so much, Colonel West. Appreciate it. When we come back, Lieutenant Colonel Scott West. Scott Mann, don't move. Listen to the Brian Kilmeade Show.
No, I am expecting military action for sure.
Okay.
And there's no doubt about it. I mean, we're bringing these resources to bear, and it's likely because we had to expand the target set. And why are we expanding it? Because we had to consider, what is Iran going to do in retaliation? Our bases are vulnerable. What are they going to do about Israel? They're going to attack Israel? Likely. And they're vulnerable. And what are we going to do about their ballistic missiles? Are we going to take them down before they fire them at our bases and also at Israel? Likely. Are we going to kill leaders? Certainly. Our IRGC members, the people that are oppressing the people? Absolutely.
I mean, they've already killed between 12, 25, some people say 100,000 people in cold blood. Can you imagine having protesters in the street and just gunning them down, going up to them and shooting them in the back of the head, piling up their bodies, then charging their families for every bullet they needed to kill your kid or to kill your loved one in order to get him back? Or they want to pile them up so high or make the price so high to get the body back that you can't afford it, so they don't count it. So the world says, and then yet Ayatollah Khomeini come out and say it was Donald Trump that had his people assassinate the Iranians in the streets. Does any clear-thinking person believe that? With me right now is Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. No one has to introduce him to the Middle East. He's got war experience. He's also conducted and coordinated Task Force Pineapple when Joe Biden dropped the ball and left everybody in Afghanistan and left with our military. He had to go in and get everybody out. And the author of Nobody is Coming to Save You, a Green Beret's Guide. And by the way, he's got a brand new play. It's 11 Days, which is coming to New York City. The performance date is already sold out. The opener on the 21st. The next one, the 22nd and 23rd, you can still get tickets. It's at 7 p.m. On the 24th at 1 and 7. And not only do you write it, but you star in it, right, Scott?
Yeah, I do 24 characters in 90 minutes.
Wow.
And it's based on Pineapple Express, the 11 days that led up to Abbey Gate.
Wow. So you have a theater show, a one-man show. Do you have theoretical background?
No, I did not start acting until I was 50. It's like the ultimate midlife crisis, man. But
Right.
when I wrote Last Out, I wanted people to understand the cost of modern war, so I wrote the play Last Out. And I just fell in love with it. I mean, it really saved my life. It helped me through, what I tell people is kind of like what's going on with the film Sheepdog to address, PTS on the screen. This is my approach to doing the same thing in live theater, but it really helps a lot.
All right, great. I want to get back to that, but first on Iran and what General Jack Keane said.
Yeah.
So you see the 2009, we did nothing because they wanted to do a nuclear deal. 2019, cursory, and then 2022 totally ignored it. So now the people going into the streets in every single province. There's no water in Tehran. The inflation's through the roof. People can't afford anything. Their real is almost worthless. So these people rose up because they hate their lives. They hate their government. What do you see our role?
Well, I mean, this is a major decision point, Brian. I think that, a lot of people don't realize that, Iran in its current state has only been here really since, the mid to late 70s. I mean, like it hasn't always
79.
been this way. Right. Yeah. And, the same with Afghanistan. I mean, so what you're talking about is a strategically bad actor who has their fingers into everything, man. But the people of that country, they are right on the precipice of overthrowing this regime. And what does Iran do every time? They export the blame. That's what they're really good at. Is they manufacture anger and fear to try to take it off of themselves. But this time, I don't know if they can pull it off.
I don't know. Right now, I guess the protests have stopped because they're just killing people in the street.
It's just brutal.
I guess for now, and they might permanently cut off the internet. Is that even possible today?
I think they can. I think they can certainly suppress it to such a degree that you lose momentum. And the moment. Here's the thing about an insurgency or an uprising, is they will last for a while, but ultimately, because it's easy to say, well, they should just handle it themselves. If you look throughout history, and I spent most of my life studying unconventional warfare as a Green Beret, you have to have an external actor. When you're going to push an unconventional warfare or an insurgent movement
without guns
to topple a regime, without arms, that's why the Afghan forces fell so quickly to the Taliban. There's no external force to help push it over the line. Even the United States Revolution, we had France that helped get it over the line against Great Britain, right? And without them, most historians will agree, we would not have been able to overthrow Britain. So what role we play in this will be extremely critical as to whether or not this uprising succeeds or fails.
Right. We should never put people on the ground. I don't think Trump wants to do that, but he wants to maybe weaken them to the point. I also think is there a legal way to arm the population?
Well, there are certainly ways to arm populations, and the United States has actually, for many, many years, developed a process of unconventional warfare or irregular warfare where we work by, with, and through indigenous populations to stand up on their own. That's what Special Forces, the Green Berets, was designed to do. There are ways to do this that you can actually empower the populations of a country like Iran that are oppressed to rise up on their own and affect it indirectly. Whether or not we're doing that, I mean, I wouldn't comment on it even if I knew, but I think that those options are certainly on the table. What we get myopically focused on are the surgical strike type raids that you see in the movies, or like you saw when we pulled Maduro out, and those are awesome. But there are also other ways to facilitate an uprising by, with, and through that are not as apparent, but they're still very viable.
I hear we're doing cyber attacks already. The other thing they're going after is banks. They're trying to find out where these guys, evidently, when we went after the central bank years ago, they decided a lot of the rich people, the kleptocrats that run that country, started moving their money to the UAE and to Kuwait and other places.
Yeah.
Don't you think we're good at tracking that by now?
100%. After the 20-year war.
Can we just hold that money back?
Yeah, our counter-threat finance capabilities after the 20-year war and the global war on terror certainly are extremely good. And I have no doubt that this administration will bring various instruments of power basically to isolate Iran. But here's one other thing to think about, Brian, and this is something you and I have talked about, is we have to remember that Iran, part of their way of navigating the world is they use asymmetric warfare. They put sleeper cells and bad actors in other places, to include here, to include the West. And so that's the thing. If these ayatollahs and these mullahs feel like they're on their last leg and they're not coming out alive, one of the things we need to be thinking deeply about is homeland protection and how this could manifest right here at home with asymmetric terror attacks.
I think so, too. And also when you see what's happening in Gaza, it's the most likely scenario. The IDF has to go back in and kill Hamas because they're not going to voluntarily give up their arms like they're supposed to.
Of course they're not. They're not. I mean, that I just think
they have nowhere to go.
They don't, and their whole narrative is based on this. Like, that's the thing that I think we miss is that some of these organizations, like the Taliban, like Hamas, like Hezbollah, like Al Qaeda, you cannot negotiate with them because they're not rational actors. They base their operations on a multi-century narrative of a global caliphate that does not coexist with the West or any other religion. And that's just how it is. And to think that you can, like, if you cut deals with them, you have to understand that you're not cutting deals with a rational actor.
By the way, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann is here, and he's got a brand new play out that debuts on the 21st. Today is the 20th, so it's tomorrow. And then the 22nd and 23rd at 7 p.m. The name of the location is The Wild Project at 195 East 3rd Street right here in New York City. So you have time to get here. Tickets start very affordable at $30. In New York, you're not going to get a better show than that. So, Colonel, you've been rehearsing for how long?
13 months. You know, it's Operation Pineapple Express. If you like that book, you need to come see me tell the story from the stage as I play these characters, everything from the 82nd Airborne guys that were on the ground at Abbey Gate to my friend Nizam and he and I, the phone calls we had, and even the Minister of Women's Affairs. People don't know this, but Pineapple Express extracted the Minister of Women's Affairs, Hasina Safi, the most wanted woman in Afghanistan, through a sewage canal and a 4-foot hole in the fence because the State Department wouldn't take her.
Is she here?
She's in England right now, but the story of how she got through that canal and an 82nd Airborne First Sergeant, she was terrified of soldiers because of the way the Russians beat her dad back in the day. And so she was so scared to get in that ditch. This big paratrooper from Georgia pulls her out. And the way she tells the story is that when she entered that filthy water, she had 2 brothers. And when she was pulled out, she had 3. And to this day, they still stay in contact. They're like brother and sister. Right. And those are the kinds of stories that you'll find in this play. It's kind of like Argo meets Dunkirk.
Remind people how abandoned these things were. When we pulled out and we had that, the last carrier leave, go to Qatar. Was it Qatar or UAE?
Yeah, right.
It was Qatar. How soon did Operation Pineapple move in? Form and move in.
All of the volunteer groups really started mobilizing even before Afghanistan collapsed because we saw it coming. Most of the volunteers were Green Berets and special operators, so we saw it coming. But it was really August 15th, 2021, when the collapse actually happened, that the phone calls started flooding our personal cell phones saying, hey, this is so-and-so, commando buddy. I'm stuck and my family's on the run. Can you help us? And it just became, everybody thought they were doing it on their own, Brian. Nobody knew that there were groups forming. It was very, very organic. But what came out of it were these amazing stories of friendships and courage, and they just didn't get told in the media. They certainly didn't get told by politicians. And that's what we want to do with this play, is that we want to tell the story of the friendships that built up over 20 years and what our veterans did when nobody else stepped up.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it. How much did we leave behind? Billions of dollars worth of equipment. I mean, how crazy is that? And we basically armed the Taliban.
And we left them 30,000 Afghan commandos. Like my friend Nizam, who was passenger number 1 on the Pineapple Express, not only was he an Afghan commando, Afghan Special Forces, he went to the U.S. Green Beret qualification course. He is a certified 18 Bravo weapon sergeant. He is certified to train, lead, and equip an indigenous battalion of operators.
Where is he?
He's here in the States now, and a lot of guys like him got out, but a lot didn't. Mm-hmm. And that's the story we want to tell, because now it's going to be our children that end up going back into Afghanistan, into Iran, perhaps. Yeah. And what we've got to recognize...
Because your son's in the Army.
He is. And when we build these relationships with these other countries, we have to recognize that how you leave, it's not about whether you should leave or not. It's how you leave. And if you just leave these people in a lurch that you trained for years with no recourse, then we're going to inherit something really ugly. And that's really what this play is about, is to tell that story.
Yeah, I know the West person to leave there was General Chris Donahue.
Yep.
Who's as respected as anybody in the Army.
Yep, we still stay in touch.
Yeah, and he's somebody that would be, I imagine, any type of these operations, I would hope would be consulted. Especially, we have now a prison break in Syria where the ISIS families were being held. This happened yesterday. It's around the Kurdish area that we're looking out from, but Syria's looking to reclaim the rest of their country, and it looks like a prison break. This is 2 miles from our guys.
I'll say it on the record right now. It's really easy to get focused on Venezuela and Iran and the conventional fights right now, Greenland. But what I will tell people is ISIS and Al-Qaeda are not done. We will see another major terror attack on our soil sooner than later, and we need to make sure we don't take our eye off the ball. Because these guys, when they go quiet, that's when you need to really get concerned.
Right. I mean, I think I'm encouraged that when they did kill 2 of our guys and an interpreter, there was immediate retribution multiple times. It was a massive bombing, then follow-up bombings. It shows you there's intelligence on the ground. And perhaps I don't know if you're buying into it. Is the Syrian government, you think, combining with us at this moment?
No, I don't believe that at all. I think they are bad actors. I think they just dress a little better than they used to.
That's it?
That's it.
Do you think the president was wrong to recognize him?
I do. I don't think he's someone we should be working with, but I don't think we should be working with the Taliban and giving them millions of dollars of cash every 10 days either.
That?
Absolutely.
I thought the president was stopping that.
No, we're still giving money to the Taliban, and we're still using the Taliban as a counterterror partner.
I had no idea. How much are we giving? Do you know?
I'll get the numbers back to you, but it's tens of millions of dollars every 10 days or so.
In
cold hard
exchange
cash.
for what? People not starving to death?
Yeah, it's humanitarian aid, but it's also counterterrorism partnership, for them to give us information on ISIS. But the reality is, I mean, my personal opinion is I think we're being played. I think the Taliban is still in bed with Al-Qaeda as much as they've ever been.
Wow.
They're not a responsible counterterrorism partner. And I think it's deluded to think
I
that they
never
are.
thought we were. But the Taliban I would never do. My sense is, I know we send multiple American lawmakers over there to meet with the Syrian leader. And I think right now they don't seem to be a threat to Israel. I think that's an encouraging sign.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just think that you have to look at the character of these individuals.
Well, you have the resume. The resume is Al-Qaeda.
Absolutely. And I think that just because the dude cuts his hair and puts on a suit and tie does not change his character. And understand that they're operating off a multi-century narrative. They are patient. Mm-hmm. They're going to wait for the right moment, and they're going to play the game they need to play. But I just think that we get so distracted and we take our eye off the ball and we forget who we're really dealing with.
So I do love the fact that they push Russia out.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, I think there's,
keep Iran out.
Yep, I think there's good geopolitical things that come out of it. But what I fear is that we're dismissing the asymmetric terror capability that still exists in this world. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget, this is the 25th anniversary of 9/11. And honestly, I think we have completely forgotten. I think we have forgotten the way this thing was orchestrated, the way it was conducted.
Well, put it this way, Scott. And by the way, we're talking with Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann. He's excited, and he should be. His play is now coming out tomorrow. And also his best-selling book. But the play is coming out tomorrow, and it's called 11 Days. So hopefully people go to, where can they go to order this?
Yeah, you just go to tfpineapple.org.
All right. You know this. Now there's people that said 9/11's an inside job, and it's not just Rosie O'Donnell. Now you have people on the right who's saying, oh, yeah, this is an inside job. Of course we knew about it ahead of time. Of course George W. Bush looked the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even
Is that
think
the most sickening thing you've ever?
It is extremely sick. I mean, I lost my Ranger buddy on 9/11 in the Pentagon, and I think that this is where an entire generation of warfighters from the global war on terror.
Do you hear what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, and I think it's disgusting. I think that it completely diminishes what an entire generation of warfighters and their families and our fallen gave to keep this country safe after 9/11. And if that's what we come away with, that it was an inside job and that actually the work that went in to keep these guys at bay was not even legit, man, we're going to reap what we sow. That's all I can say.
All right, Lieutenant Colonel Scott Mann, thanks so much for your service and congratulations on yet another play.
Yes, sir.
I mean, people like to maybe star in a play, you're writing them and you're starring in them.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Lieutenant Colonel
Brian.
Scott Mann, thanks so much. Back in a moment.
There's a lot more fear because we have the sense this existential dread. It's going to wipe everything out.
Right.
But that actually runs counter, in my view, to what history seems to show. It's going to be good at filling in all the places that are expensive and burdensome, and they make it harder to do it. And it's always going to rely fundamentally on the human artistic aspects of it.
So that is Matt Damon as well as Ben Affleck talking about AI in movies. So I listened to The Daily yesterday, the New York Times podcast, and I'm not sure if this was a special or it was yesterday's, but they just talked about how AI is already being used. Now, some of it, I think Coke did a commercial, and it was panned because it was their word was soulless, total AI. But the other thing they're doing is AI is putting in backgrounds and all types of awesome sets. It's costing almost nothing, where it would have cost millions of dollars. Remember what James Woods told us on One Nation? We replayed it here, I think, where he says there's no doubt that AI will replace actors. You have to deal with agents, you have to deal with writers, you have to deal with temperaments.
Well, that's where though SAG is going to get involved with the unions. But what Ben Affleck was saying there is like AI gets involved in maybe creating the background. That can save a lot of money.
But it saves money. Okay, I'll do it. I have no money. But now I'm knocking extras out. There's no
but
more
maybe
extras.
you just need like a pretty sky. Right, I don't know.
But where's the limit? I could save even more money.
Good question.
So, yeah. So Matt Damon and Ben Affleck talk about making movies, but that is the big thing in Hollywood. They are extremely nervous. Chris, you're now Governor Chris Sununu.
So
always.
much on tap today.
I know.
We could go on all
and
day.
you had to run for, it seems like you were there for 100 years because you had to run every 2.
Every 2 years. So
every time I talk to you, you ran for re-election.
There you go.
And you kept winning, and you would have won again, and you would have probably been senator, but now your brother has been, is trying to get the nomination. Scott Brown's also running too. So a couple of things. How's he done year 1?
The president? It's been an incredible. Has any president had a first year like this?
Right.
And not just talking about the successes, but saying, look, I don't care what the status quo was. I don't care what the issue was, what other administrations weren't willing to take on. We're going after it, and we're going to go after it hard. So they've literally left no stone unturned. They've left everybody a bit with their jaws open in terms of what they're willing and trying to do in just the first year. Do I love every method and every message that comes out? No, but what the goals in terms of prescription drugs, we forget about what he did there with the tax cuts, what he did there with energy, what the energy secretary and Doug Burgum are doing, opening up these reserves like never before. We
haven't really felt that yet. But what they're doing behind the scenes, they are literally plowing the ground for a massive change.
We're feeling it with AI, though, right? Because AI is now making investments because AI's biggest cost is energy. Knowing that the long-term energy of their facilities is secure is allowing AI and all this technology to move forward faster here than anywhere else in the world. You can't do that unless you have the power. Otherwise, China would have been eating our lunch right now.
Help me with this. Data centers have to be built. But with it, you need energy for the data centers.
Huge.
I love what Trump said a few days ago. And he just said, look, if you're going to build a data center, you got to make the energy. You got to come up with the energy source.
That's right.
And then I asked Doug Burgum this directly, who's as honest as the day is long. And I said, Mr. Secretary or Governor, I just said, wait a second. Are you telling me the utility costs are going up in states with these data centers? Is there anything that can be done by it? He goes, that's not true. Well, clearly it's true. Because President Trump on Friday said, you got to pay for it because, for example, New Jersey and Louisiana is going to get slammed.
That's right.
Because they're building a huge facility for Meta.
Right. So there's a couple options there. One is you see some of them going in Texas. They're literally going right over where like the oil is, for example. Like they're going to pull it out. They can literally refine it, turn it into electricity. Yeah, the natural gas. Yeah. The natural gas is right there. So they have to build it. But again, cutting those transmission costs is huge. But if you're going to invest these hundreds of billions and trillions over the next 10 years in AI, they have to offset those costs. They are going to pull an energy demand like we've never seen before, which is okay if you're going to pay for it and not ask the rest of America to subsidize it for you.
Right. So we want to keep a lot of stuff here. Now, today's a big day because any moment we'll be hearing about the tariffs, whether the president has the constitutional right to implement.
Can you imagine if they overturn it? Like that's, I think, I talk to folks in the business. I work for the airlines now, and I talk to these folks in the business community all over the place. The tariffs are now baked in for the most part. If the Supreme Court were to overturn it, I would argue you're going to see as much chaos in the market as you saw when he first announced this on quote-unquote liberation back in April. Because folks have baked it in. It's assumed. It's there. But now to undo all that and reverse it, the uncertainty that would create in the financial markets across the world would be absolutely huge, because what's going to happen is people go, well, does it apply to everything? Is Congress going to act? Can this somehow get undone? No one will know where it's going to end up. They're not just going to overturn it and it's going to sit there. There's other actions that could be taken that will take more time, will take longer. I think right now folks have said, look, we thought tariffs were going to rock the economy. I did. I was like, holy cow, I'm a free market guy. I said, boy, these tariffs are going to be really, really tough. We've all found a stabilization for the most part here. They're baked in to where where America wants to be in terms of balancing the budget. To undo it now would be really chaotic, really chaotic.
And if you remember how John Roberts, Chief Justice, handled Obamacare, was he going to overturn it, right? And he knew, he wasn't just in a bubble in a think tank. Right. He knew what happens if I make this ruling constitutional or not. So he landed the plane, right? He split the difference.
And he took a lot of heat for doing that.
Yes.
And a lot of heat for doing it.
Right, because it would have blown up the whole healthcare system. We had to start again.
There was no replacement.
So don't you think he's doing the same thing? It's the same guy. Don't you think that's why it's later? Because he understands?
Possibly. And again, on this one, I'm not the macroeconomics guy, but you also have to be a lawyer here. Was using those emergency provisions viable? Should he have used a different provision?
Is it an emergency?
Is it an emergency? Can he go back to Congress? What justifies an emergency? Can he have all these carve-outs that he's having? But, I was on CNN this morning, and they were like, boy, the terrorists, have created chaos. And I said, no, the EU tariff situation has found a nice balance. A lot of it has gone 0 for 0. They've carved certain things out. Folks know they got to put pen to paper.
It's forcing new trade deals with everyone.
Forcing new trade deals with everyone, allowing America to use leverage in ways we hadn't ever used before, because you had a president to stand up and say, we're not just going to take it anymore. We're going to use our leverage. Some things will be in a positive, some things will be in a negative, but overall, we have much more leverage in terms of what's happening across the globe than ever before.
And by the way, Chris Sununu was the 82nd governor of New Hampshire. He's currently the president and CEO of Airlines for America. I'm sure you heard I'll be flying out a little bit later. Do you have any advice for me?
Well, I'm waiting for you to fly. I think you should be doing this show live from Greenland. I think that would be the Brian Kilmeade move right there. That would be awesome.
I would love it.
That would be awesome.
But basically, after the show, I'd have nothing to do. I don't like to fish. So I'll live in a magenta house.
You plow roads. You can plow roads. There's lots of roads to be plowed. I'll teach you how to plow.
I'll get a shovel and look for lithium.
Wait, don't you have a place in Jacksonville? You're a Florida guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't let you plow roads. Sorry.
Right.
You won't know what you're doing.
I can't say I'm really a Long Island guy. I mean,
no, I know, but you go down south.
Yeah, in Ponte Vedra area.
Yeah. That's nice.
Thank you.
Nice.
Thanks for your approval.
Well,
right?
Well, you know what? Everyone else goes to like West Palm and like all down south there. It's so crowded down there. It's a little crazy. You're getting the best of both worlds. You don't have the traffic and the crowds.
I want to be accepted. And I want to stand out. If I go to Palm Beach, I won't get noticed. I'm all about being recognized. You know that, Governor. I have a huge ego. For you in particular, how are you liking this job? And, of course, I just had Sean Duffy on the television show. He's accomplished so much.
Sean's doing an incredible job.
It's hard for me to remember who the transportation secretaries were. All I hear about
we all remember the guy right before Sean.
Yeah.
Pothole Pete, right?
And Normanetta was it Normanetta? Yeah.
Was Norm there? I don't even know.
I think so. It was the only one to go from a Democratic administration.
I remember way back in the day, LaHood was there. Oh, and Secretary Chow.
Yeah,
well, she was wonderful. Look, what Sean has done is said we're not going to run the Department of Transportation with bureaucrats and lawyers. We're going to bring people in and get stuff done. The FAA Administrator, Brian Bedford. And the big thing for me is we've talked about it before, the air traffic control rebuild. It's the most complicated infrastructure project the government's ever taken on. $30 billion.
In real time.
In real
the planes
time.
Aren't going to
has
stop.
to happen right now while we're landing tens of thousands of planes a day. So, and there's a lot of issues there. It's basically a giant telecom system. So planes can talk to each other. The pilots can talk to the ground. The ground can make things more efficient. We're running things on floppy disks and paper strips. We've talked about that before. Sean and his team are saying no more. And the president, right? No president has taken this on for 40 years. The president's saying
it's costly.
We're going to get it. It's not only costly, but there's such high risk in not getting a big public works project done, right? So politicians tend to go, you guys handle that, and when it doesn't go well, I'm going to blame you, right? The president's saying we're getting this thing done because it's a national security.
But you only
asset.
have half the money right now. You got to get another $12 billion.
To all the senators and the congressmen, listen, we need that second round of funding.
Well, it's Ted Cruz.
Because they're moving so fast. And Cruz gets it, I think. Congressman Graves really gets it. Got to bring everybody else on board. But I'm down in Washington reminding Capitol Hill, this president is moving so fast. His administration is moving so fast. Don't do business like you used to do it. Move quickly, get the money, and the new radar systems are coming. The copper's turning into fiber connections. They're rebuilding the facilities. They're putting new technology kind of behind the screen, as we say, so you can land more planes safer, have a better customer experience. It's going to be great, and thank God we have an administration that gets how to do public work.
So we got a year until the midterm elections, and don't you love people, especially you are so into politics in the grandiose, not just New Hampshire. You always have the big picture in mind, maybe because how you grew up.
I guess so. It's in the blood a little bit. Yeah. You know, it's a New Hampshire thing more than anything.
Your brother was governor and senator.
Congressman and senator.
Congressman and senator.
Yeah, I was governor. My dad was governor.
Governor and chief of staff.
And White House chief of staff.
So you always have a great perspective, and you also go on CNN and get yelled at all the time, and you yell back. It's always fun.
Look, if I can handle The View a couple times, I can handle
Why would
anything.
you do that? I mean,
loved it.
Is it
was
old
the best. I loved it.
Really?
Because to go on there and have them look at you and go, damn, we really like this guy. Because we challenged each other. I didn't agree with them on much of anything.
Yeah, you don't have to be mean.
But, they're demonizing Republicans all the time, and it's great to go on and where they have to admit to their own, yeah, I guess all Republicans aren't evil,
But everything you believe in is. So when asked, which party in Congress do you trust more on the issues? Fox News did a poll yesterday. Democrats, 32%. Republicans, 38%. And by the way, Fox News polls do not go right or left.
They're right down the middle, actually.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised.
And by the way, everyone will tell you that.
Yeah.
Border security, 48-20.
Sure.
Obviously. Tariffs, 36-34 Republicans. Foreign policy, 38-33 Republicans. I can't believe it's not
So what
more.
do the Dems get? Where do they take? What issues do they get?
Don't give it away.
Okay.
I'm building.
All right.
Looking out for middle-class families, Democrats 39%. Republicans 36. On health care, it's Democrats by 15. So they get that.
Okay, looking out for middle class families.
Yes.
Republicans only down by 3.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's the working class shift you're seeing in this last election, right? You're seeing a lot of working class Americans coming over to the Republican side. You saw it with Latinos. You saw it with African Americans. You saw it with voting blocs that traditionally unions that traditionally don't vote Republican are coming over. I was at the White House for one of the Christmas parties. It was great. They bring you in, you get to see all the decorations and all that sort of thing. And, the head of the team, Sean was there, the head of the Teamsters, a lot of the union heads were there. And I thought, well, this isn't typical. And God bless the president. He's calling them out, saying, look, these guys typically might not vote all Republican and be with us all the time, but they know hard work that deserves credit.
That you're not against
bringing them.
See, for the longest time, you guys didn't care that a lot of your anti-union message was anti-blue collar. You're like, well, what can you do? We don't mean that. But no, now you went out of your way to say there's a difference.
That's right.
So it's so interesting. Back in a moment, I don't want to cut the second segment. Oh, by the way, are we only one segment, Allison? You were going to say we can continue? Because you were going to say if he wasn't good, just to get rid of him early. So he's okay?
Is my haircut good enough?
Right, absolutely. Yeah, he's in the private sector now. He's got it actually. Do you have a tailored blazer?
I do. I actually went to a tailor for the first time in my life. I went to a tailor for the first time.
Did you even know what to ask for when you walked into the dry cleaner?
No, my wife had to write it out. She said, say this and then say this, but don't just walk into Macy's and get something. I mean, Macy's is great off the rack. It's wonderful, but I actually went to someone who pulled out that measuring thing and put it in places that you're not ready for.
It is amazing,
You're like, well,
I always thought it was amazing that you're asking baseball players to have 2 skills, use a mitt and a bat. But to walk into a dry cleaner and say, clean my stuff, now hem my pants.
Yeah.
2 totally different skills. We'll talk about that in the break. Back in a moment. Hey, I got some more time with Governor Sununu, who's got a new job and is demanding I use that title. He's currently the president and CEO of Airlines for America. I love America, like the planes. So this is a great job.
We love airlines. We love America.
So are you liking the private sector?
I love the private sector. I love the airline industry.
Because you were in one. You had your own business, right?
Yeah, I was an engineer for a long time, and then I ran a ski resort through a bizarre series of events. Then I become governor. So to get out and not just into the private sector, but do it back in industry with CEOs you love, you respect. I mean, Robert Isom, who runs American Airlines, and Scott Kirby, who runs United, Ed Bastian, who runs Delta. You can go down the list. Just incredible individuals that know how to run. I love that. I love hanging out and being able to kind of glean off people like that.
All right. So I know you're more governor-based, but how about this in Washington? They're actually getting the appropriations bills done.
I know. Can you believe it? They better, because we only have 2 weeks or government's in a shutdown.
But this is somewhat regular order. They're doing a mini bus, but for the most part, they're one by one by one. They need 12, correct?
It's the most inefficient thing you've ever seen. All 12 of them need to pass passed to really avoid the government shutdown. The big one for us is the transportation. It's called THUD. If that passes, then we can pay our air traffic controllers, right? The one linchpin
Did it pass yet?
It should pass in a week. But we're not there yet. Like, we're still panicked that something's going to fall apart come January 30th, all of a sudden. And we saw what happened in the last shutdown. 6 weeks later, Democrats were ready to throw Thanksgiving out the window, right, until Hassan and Shaheen and some very, I think I would call them the wiser of the Democrat senators, got together and said, we can't let this happen. And they joined the Republicans and passed the bill and got government.
But a lot of people say Democrats were rewarded by their outcome of those off-year elections. Because of Virginia and Maryland and other things.
Without a doubt. And look, could that mindset play into, well, let's stall them again in late January? It could. I think it's 70-30 that we get this thing passed, and therefore, again, as long as the air traffic controllers are paid, the planes stay flying and everything stays smooth, there's no real political linchpin, if you will. The airlines are always the kicking boy for these shutdowns. So we got to avoid that.
The massive fraud that's being uncovered now, it's exposing in Maine, in California, and most of all in Minnesota
yeah.
Billions of dollars.
Yeah.
How was this able to happen year after year? And if you're a governor, how could you not know?
If you're a governor, you're an absentee governor, right? And I'm not saying that Governor Walz knew or didn't know. I can tell you, let's face it, the guy was on the campaign trail for 18 months, completely ignored his state or whatever he was doing, and he was running around getting all this national attention.
But this fraud stuff was up in his
It's your job to know.
It should have been Eric Holder should have said, hey, Kamala, 100%. You can't pick this guy.
100%. And now I will say this. I think especially if you go back during COVID, if you look at unemployment insurance fraud, the level of fraud to the tune of billions, you're barely scratching the surface with Minnesota. As governors, we used to talk about it all the time. I could tell you California, we exposed it big time. And I think, wasn't it Washington State that was giving hundreds of millions of dollars to folks in Africa at the time? They were paying people in prisons unemployment insurance. California, billions of dollars.
Only through corruption.
Yeah, right. Billions of dollars of fraud in California, specifically on the unemployment side.
Doesn't this add significantly to the deficit? This is not small money.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. You're paying for it. Every one of your listeners is paying for this stuff. So, some of us took it real serious. Some of us were, I think, clamped down hard. Others didn't, and they're paying the price. And hopefully, look, this sets something in motion that everyone is held accountable.
Am I right that New Hampshire has checks and balances where if Governor Sununu was hands off the wheel and there was corruption, there'll be things
it in a
reined
second, and then we'll get reined in a second.
Right.
Other states just let it go.
And that's what's happening.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I think they're kind of loving the ICE distraction.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's a whole nother one. But
I'm just getting you ready for CNN.
The most important part is the Live Free or Die state does it right.
That's
the takeaway.
Chris Sununu.
Does the defendant have any priors?
DUI? Assault?
When you got back, something was different. It wasn't that you'd changed. You'd been replaced.
I bet you wonder, where's my tribe? I just want to wake up in the morning and feel something.
You were willing to give your life for your country. Now maybe you can try living for it.
So Stephen Graham plays Calvin Cole and is also a writer, director, and star of Sheepdog. Matt Dallas is also here. He plays Daryl Sparks in movie Sheepdog. They came out over the weekend, and they're both kind enough to come into studio. Good to see you guys. You reminded me, you were on Fox and Friends, 10 years ago?
Yeah, 2013. Yeah.
And it was about PTSD and war.
Yeah, it was about our veteran suicide epidemic, post-traumatic stress. And, we were only 2 years into the journey at that time. So we just want to take this opportunity to thank you guys. And you believed in us from the very, very beginning. So this is a very full circle moment for us to be 14 years to get this film to the screen.
So, Matt, you must have been 11 when you were on. Incredibly young.
We were babies. Yeah, we were pretty.
So tell me about the premise of the movie.
Yeah, so Sheepdog follows a treatment-adverse combat veteran who's forced into treatment, and at that same time, his father-in-law is released from prison, and Calvin, our lead character, is sort of forced to put the pieces of his life back together and, explore his journey through to healing and through post-traumatic stress into post-traumatic growth. And our film is really about the focus on post-traumatic
Steve,
growth.
how'd you study for this? Did you look at a myriad of characters and different soldiers?
Yeah, so 2011, we went on a nationwide road trip, and it took a lot of time to get veterans across the country to trust two guys who seemingly, were from Hollywood. And we were very lucky from the very first veteran that we met in McAllen, Texas, George Rice. He really opened up to us and set us on that path. Over the years, I was able to volunteer at the Detroit VA Medical Center. Again, God bless them for trusting me. And I was able to role play with doctors, neuropsychologists, neurologists, trauma therapists. I was taken in by Gold Star families who really, really wanted me to see what it was like to be in their shoes, and in the mental health professionals across the country. And so we were just very fortunate. And the thing about Sheepdog to share with folks is that this is the first film that not only focuses on post-traumatic growth, but it's a film where we pick up 10 years after our veterans' last deployment. There's so much life that is lived in that time, and we just hadn't seen a film like that.
And Matt, we've had 2 wars at least, 2 big wars that we know of, but the other wars for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah, but for us, like, our focus is on the war at home, right? Because there's, you know, the men and women, they get sent across the, to fight for us, but then they come home and, you know, the resources, there are so many resources in place, but unfortunately when they come home, they just don't utilize them. And that's why we're asking the VA to partner with us, because there are 5 million veterans that are not using the resources that are available to them.
Right. I want you to hear another clip of the movie. This is Vondi Curtis Hall. This is a clip from Sheepdog. Let's watch 36.
We came back and they spat on us at the airport. No homecoming parade, no celebrations.
I bet you wonder, where's my tribe? And I ain't talking about no friendship neither. I'm talking about brotherhood. My pain is relative, son. Sometimes we gotta fall apart to find ourselves all over again.
So, describe that.
Yeah, first off, that's Emmy nominee Vondi Curtis Hall, who grew up in the Vietnam era in Detroit. His lines, his dialogue were very well informed by all the honor flights I did. I had the good fortune to be a part of out of Austin, Texas, where you take Vietnam veterans and World War II veterans to the respective memorials in D.C. During that time, if you're lucky enough to be invited down to the hotel lobby bar after you've had a very sobering day at the memorials, there was so much shared. And his performance is nothing short of stunning in the film. You know, he had friends drafted that didn't come home. He had friends that came home during the Vietnam era with post-traumatic stress, and he currently has friends that are battling cancer from Agent Orange. And his performance is just, it's such a beautiful and perfect way to honor the service and sacrifice of our veterans.
So when you guys are together, like Matt, do you guys take notes? Like when you're hearing these stories, you think, oh, I got to remember that. But you don't want to be rude as if I stop being a friend and start being a writer.
Yeah, so when we set out on our first journey in 2011 across the country, you know, we showed up pretty naive. We would set up cameras, and we thought, you know, we were going to really document this trip.
Nothing, no script, just an idea.
That's
and
correct.
premise.
We had a blank map up on the wall that we were just like, sort of had ideas of where we were going to go in the country. But, you know, we really, like, it was about where we're going to be able to get people to open up to us. But it was really when those cameras came off that the real stories came out. And that's when we realized pretty quickly that that's where the real stuff and research was going to happen. And this whole journey has been about really respecting, honoring those stories and those men and women that spoke to us.
Did you find that they were appreciative, that you cared enough to ask?
Yeah, it goes a long way. I mean, for anyone who's listening, I know for civilians it takes a lot of courage sometimes to say thank you for your service to a service member. I think what we would like to change, have the paradigm shift, is to say, how are you doing? Or tell me a little bit about your military service. The idea with the film is to share awareness and to inspire, but we're trying to connect our military community that, you know, is our 1% that defends the 99%. We don't want folks to feel alone in their experience, disconnected from their families or their communities, or to suffer in silence. And just to bring up again with what Matt was saying, we're really encouraging the VA. There's 5 million veterans currently not accessing care that they have earned, that's rightfully theirs. The VA is our first line of defense.
Have they been receptive to you? Because
yes, it's been unbelievable. Listen, if you're a veteran listening, they let me in. I got to see it, warts and all. What I saw, though, was ordinary men and women coming to work, not getting rich doing it, and trying to impact lives, saving lives. I remember standing in a cafeteria at the VA Medical Center, and a corpsman who had saved 52 of 54 lives overseas. He was haunted by the 2 he couldn't. And he pointed across the cafeteria at a trauma therapist, and he said, that lady right there saved my life. That's what we're talking about, and that's what we're talking about with Sheepdog.
Right. Yeah, Sheepdog is now out. It's a brand new movie. Steve Grayhm and Matt Dallas been working on this, 13 years, 14 years?
Yeah, this is, 14 years to the screen, and we never took our foot off the gas pedal. It's been a long, hard-fought battle, and again, you guys have been so supportive, and we're just so grateful.
And Steve, you started a push-up challenge, too?
Yeah. So I mean, it was talking about the veteran suicide epidemic is very hard. A lot of folks don't want to talk about it. It's easier to look away. And we were just trying to find a way to bring it into the social discourse. And so we started pushing out 22 push-ups at recruitment centers and videotaping it. And it was a slow burn. And, a year and a half later, The Rock and Chris Pratt and David Beckham and folks are doing it. And the idea was to anyone could hashtag that, and all the different VSOs across the country that could and were willing to be a part of it could help raise money for veteran suicide prevention.
Wow, that's and what year was that?
2000. We started it in 2013 out of Dallas, Texas, and then I think it took off, getting closer to 2015. But again, we were just out there, kept making those videos.
Yeah. So, guys, Matt, why don't you tell me, how do you go from writer to actor, in your head?
Well, I didn't write the film.
Yeah,
Steven wrote the film, but for him, it was it was about the determination to share these stories and to uncover the truth.
Were you with him for a lot of these stories to hear him firsthand?
Yes, we actually went on multiple cross-country road trips, like getting into every nook and cranny of the country.
Were you listening to these stories as an actor?
So that is exactly. So when Steven first approached me about this project, he said, I'm not exactly sure that it's going to be a film, but if it is, I think you should play my best friend. But you have to go on the road with me, and you have to sit and hear these stories firsthand, so that you can look into the eyes and so you're truly immersed, and what that experience is.
So some of the combat veterans reacted to Sheepdog. It's Bobby, Donald, and Lou. Let's listen to what they said. Cut 37.
All that pain that we carry was taken and turned into a piece of art. It was turned into a film to where the civilian population can understand what happens in the minds of veterans when they come home, especially combat veterans.
It's not like all the other war movies. It's not the cool guys shoot 'em up, it's not about that, man. It's about the real war that we face. And from a guy who is at senior level, we're not trained to face the civilian world.
Incredibly powerful. I had never seen any of these actors on the screen before. They all looked like they were portraying their characters for real. I didn't see actors. I just saw real life.
And by the way, that last guy was a board member at SAG-AFTRA, but that's probably the ultimate compliment, right? That's your audience.
Look, I get emotional listening to that, because that's all we wanted to do, is to make an impact and depict these folks authentically on screen, for having the courage to trust us with their stories. Across the country, we were on the film festival circuit, and having Vietnam veterans stand up in front of a full auditorium in tears and saying, "You guys nailed it." Having OIF and OAF veterans, again, emotional at the end, standing up in front of a full theater, just saying, "I wish I had this movie 10 years ago. I wish so my parents could know more about me."
10 seconds, Matt, your reaction to the reaction?
Yeah, I was same thing. I got very emotional doing it, but it was amazing. We just had, even recently, a veteran that stood up in front of the theater at the end of his showing to say.
So go check out Sheepdog. Steve and Matt deserve your viewership. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
God bless.
And the president's always selling, and he's right. Year one of term 2 is in the books. What has Trump accomplished, and what do you hope he still has left to do? Well, I'll tell you right off, he's got to solve Iran, because there's nobody else that's going to come in and solve it. They're always going to look to talk, and I don't want a one war. But we have to show Iran that getting a nuclear program, expediting and exporting terror is not going to work anymore. Creating havoc in the Middle East is not going to be tolerated anymore. Literally, we're down to one country. I know Syria is imperfect, and I know these empires, the UAE and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, aren't perfect. They're not the democracies that maybe outside visiting we want to live in. They're never going to be democracies in my view, but so what? We can deal with them. They're thinking economics first. They're trying to make their people's lives better. So if you ask me what Trump's got to handle, he's got to handle the most unpopular government, not only in the world, in my view, but in their own country. They're hated. The Ayatollah's 86, can't die soon enough. But the next guy is most likely, and it was supposed to be his son, but his son's evidently a real moron. But it'll probably be someone just as evil. The people deserve better, and I think Trump's moving assets in there to do just that. Hopefully continue on the path when it comes to Israel, Gaza phase 2. But I also hope at home we have a chance to not only, I want to put into law everything the president's done at the border so no one can come in and screw it up again intentionally. You see clips from what Bill Clinton used to say. He sounded like Donald Trump. You saw what Barack Obama exported all these people that came in here, threw them all out by the millions. And suddenly everything changed. So I hope to put that into play. Obviously, the tax system is a tax system, and they're now permanent. That's great. I want to see another reconciliation bill, and I do want to do something, if we can get together with some sober-minded Democrats, voting reform. I don't care who wins. I just want the real winner to win. Same thing. That's why you have instant replay in football. You know what? You might be rooting for a certain team, but can we just make sure that the right call gives us the right winner and you have a chance? So let's not do the mail-in ballots, and let's make voter ID mandatory. All the things that I think everybody can agree on, I hope. So those are things I hope he accomplishes, as well as getting that ballroom done. Here's the President of the United States talking more about what he's most proud of, and that's the southern border, cut 2.
Closed. They can't come in, and nobody comes. Nobody even tries. And the people in Texas, Arizona, all these places that are won by such big numbers, they are so happy with the border. They had homes that they weren't even able to live in their home. Every day, people were knocking on their door, every hour, and it's just a great honor to be involved with it. The ICE and Border Patrol and all of the people have been so good. Tom Homan, Kristi Noem.
So listen, I didn't think it was possible to do it. He didn't do it in his first term. He's trying to finish the wall. They're building the wall right now, but it's almost insurance instead of being the focus. So it's just, they couldn't get more than $1.2 billion to build a wall, when I think $10 or $15 billion would have finished it. And they could have gotten it, but it couldn't happen. They were trying to stop the president from looking effective. They wanted to ruin him with the Russia hoax. So they basically held him up, all other financing, and didn't want to finance the wall because it would have looked like he's keeping a campaign promise. The other thing we're talking about is the border peace. What is the border peace? In the region, they want to have this convene of leaders around the region in the Middle East and that are invested in there, playing a role in the border peace. So when these skirmishes break up, there's a way to act to try to diffuse things on all sides. We see it nonstop. We saw it with Gaza. That's what happened between the Israelis and Hamas. That's what's happened in Pakistan and India. President's done it 8 separate times, but now they're putting this border peace together because it's not okay just to let Gaza get rebuilt, have the tunnels be refurbished, and go and do this whole thing again. I don't want that. I hope you don't either. But guess one thing that came clear is that Macron's not going to be a part of this. Here's the president hearing last night that Macron doesn't want any part of the border peace. Cut 4.
Have you invited President Putin to be a member of the Board of Peace? Yeah, he's been invited. Did you give any response to President Macron saying he will not join the Board of Peace?
Oh, did he say that? Well,
Yeah.
Nobody wants him because he's going to be out of office very soon. So, that's all right. What I'll do is, if they feel like Costa, I'll put a 200% tariff on his wines and champagnes, and he'll join. But he doesn't have to join. If he said that, you're probably giving it to me a little bit differently. But if he actually did say that, but as you know, he's going to be out of office in a few months.
Did you invite President Putin to join the...
Yes, he's one of the people. These are world leaders, and the answer is yes.
By the way, there's no way President Putin belongs on the border peace. If it was the President Putin in the 90s when we were trying to sway him, and does he replace Yeltsin? But what I've seen, there's nothing about this guy that's peaceful. Remember, he kept Assad in power. bombing Chechnya, just destroying them. Look, I'm not a big Chechnyan fan, but that looked like it was trumped up to make him look more powerful than he was. We know the invasion in Georgia. We know the penetration through the borders in NATO. We also know what he's now done in Ukraine, refusing to even get to the table and talk about a legitimate end to the fighting there. So there's no way he should be on the board of peace. I disagree with the president on that big time. But Turkey and others, I want them involved, because I want them to put pressure on the groups that are involved. They can't just be people of like mind. I don't know why we need the $1 billion price tag. I don't know where that came from. But I just think that there's a lot of good things going on in the first term, in the first year of the second term. And I just think it would be great if at least some of those other outlets would acknowledge it. And I'll bring you to the fact that the president's got 45% approval. You might think, wow, that's not good enough. It's actually surprising. Considering 96% of all the press on him, 92% is negative, considering the spin that they almost have on every story, even stuff that come out great, like Maduro ends up in a Brooklyn prison. I think that in this polarized society, I think it's going to be very rare for any president to get over 50% on anything. I think when it comes to immigration border, obviously the Republicans have an advantage. When it comes to the economy, Republicans have an advantage, not big enough. If they can get this thing on track, it'll be substantial. I think the biggest joke is what James Carville said. He said, oh, there's no doubt about it. I know what's going to happen in the midterms. Cut 7.
I'm looking at the 2026 elections, and frankly, it's going to be a wipeout. Your viewers need to know that the Democrats are going to pick up at a minimum 25 seats, maybe as high as 45. Wow. In all likelihood, the Democrats will carry the Senate. So, and I think we're shaping up very well for the 2028 election. But I don't know, 2030 is, I'm 81. That might be on the other side of my horizon.
So that is James Carville weighing in. Look, to me, that's a hope. Remember he guaranteed Kamala Harris would win? People are running with that. I think it's all going to come down to the candidates and what the economy's doing, which brings me back full circle to Greenland. Mr. President, you can get the best deal possible now because everyone's scared to death. You get 2/3 of all the rare earth in Greenland, close, easy to mine, refine as everything melts away. Get NATO to invest and help us expand our presence, maybe put 6 more military bases there and start building what needed for the land-based Golden Dome operations. But we don't need to own it, because then we're going to have to write a check for $900 billion and then be the social safety network for all Greenlanders. We got enough to do over here. So, and that's why hitting them with tariffs for not allowing us to take Denmark, that's not a positive either, because you worked so hard to get that EU deal done.